Explained by the Billy Meier contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Comets. See also the destroyer comet. Contact Report 004.
The breaking into hyperspace would presumably also tear one or more planets into the superspace and spew them back out as deadly projectiles when the beam ship bursts out of it. Perhaps even various huge comets have become raging and dangerous objects speeding through outer space in this way, due to the fault of irresponsible starfarers.
You are partially right. The hyperspace really must be broken into only very far out in space because otherwise, planets would be dragged into it. Also, regarding the exit from hyperspace, you were thinking absolutely right. It is also a fact that some comets originated in this manner, but only some because most of them have been led onto their dangerous paths by other and natural events. So you are only partially right about this if you assume that all comets were created in this manner, as you might have suspected. But the fact is that such incidents are due to irresponsibility, as this does exist throughout the entire cosmic space, not just on the Earth. And irresponsibility also exists when highly developed intelligences make their first hyperspace trials and carry them out too close to planets.
Conspiracy theories general. See also Eric von Daniken. See also Jan Udo Holy, Jan van Helsing. See also Andreas von Recchi. Contact Report 376.
Look here. This is a booklet that offers many books, many of them dealing with conspiracies that are supposed to be taking place on Earth through various organizations, through the banks and governments, and through associations and religious sects, etc. If one would believe all the conspiracy theories in this regard, then the whole world would have to swarm with conspirators. Book titles like The Nutritional Lie, The Soup Lies, Out of Devil's Pot, The Medicine Mafia, The Iodine Lie, Healing Forbidden, Killing Allowed, Remote Viewing, Fake Science, Skull Bones, A World of Evil, The Insiders, Secret Politics, Banks, Bread and Bombs, Hands Off This Book, The Invisible Power, Investigation Forbidden, Shadow of Power, The Sages of Zion. AIDS means to contain overpopulation, and much more nonsense is spread through books, so that fear is stirred up and false information is spread and the readers believe all the nonsense. Look here, this is one of those advertising brochures for such nonsensical books.
I am familiar with many of these incredibly stupid conspiracy theories spread by books. In fact, they are just absolute nonsense, put into the world by irresponsible book writers, and thus unsettle the people who read these silly things. But the earthly people do not think much of the real truth because in their ignorance they want to be cheated by untruths, by lies and slander because the real truth seems to them to be too banal or too fantastic.
The whole thing is a vast profiteering enterprise, where the business of fear is thriving. Clever and irresponsible book writers with often very well-known names stir up immeasurable fears in people through their crazy conspiracy theories. In contrast, these irresponsible elements write nothing of value in terms of how to prevent wars and diseases. It does not occur to anyone to write about the truth of the fact that overpopulation is the main cause of all the present misfortune in the world, that false and incompetent rulers are at the helm of the state, driving the states into financial ruin, invading foreign countries with their armies to murder and destroy thousands of times over. Nor do they write about the fact that AIDS is becoming more and more widespread and more deadly, as you said the other day. But on the contrary, such scribblers claim that the UN or secret services, etc., have invented this epidemic to reduce humanity, etc. Nor do they write anything about the fact that the meaning of man's life is based on conscious evolution, that he should learn about it and follow the creative natural laws in order to create love, peace, freedom, and harmony among all peoples and people.
Unfortunately, this is so because there is no financial profit to be made and because the real truth does not want to be heard.
Contact Report 443.
All in all, these kinds of nonsensical writings are commercially oriented to make the ruble roll, as you say, so that the scribblers, if I want to use your expression, can fill their pockets with money. The whole of all the conspiracy theories described in all the countless books are based on sheer nonsense, as are the writings in books containing supernaturalism and assertions about the alleged infiltration of earthly governments by extraterrestrials. Conspiracy theories of all kinds, as well as supernatural, occult, and esoteric nonsense, are in great demand among the believers in these drivel. In fact, all the many books of this kind are based on silliness, senselessness, folly, as well as blooming and higher nonsense, as you always say so aptly.
If you will allow me to interrupt, I have a few other terms for the whole thing, such as noble baloney, bullshit, hooey, stupidity and folly, torchlight, ridiculousness, simple-mindedness, gibberish, folly and folly, etc. I would also like to say that, with regard to all this nonsense, there are special bookstores which, for good money, bring the rubbish books among the people, from whom the roaring rubbish is eaten like hot cakes. With very many people on earth the unreal, untrue, fantastic, occult, esoteric, religious, sectarian, supposedly supernatural and supernatural is not only considered to be more than truth and reality, but effectively everything.
These are all good terms I will remember, and your explanation hits the truth. Furthermore, these humans are sectarian and esoteric, as well as occult and supernatural, and move in their thoughts and feelings, as well as in their delusional beliefs, in illusory worlds and other unreal imaginings. The entirety of this matter of faith and fantasies has developed into a delusion in them which already moves in schizophrenic forms, whereby they no longer perceive the truth and reality, and consequently also can no longer recognize it. And in this delusional form, they infiltrate the humans with their absurdities, which they imagine, and also adopt them from other scribblers, which you call abkupfern. Copying? Thereby the readers of the entire nonsense are seduced to believingly accept the lies, slanders, the swindle and the fantasies of these irresponsible scribblers as truth, while they assess the reality and the real truth as unrealistic, unreal, and as untruth. Belief is just very much simpler than investigating the effective truth through one's own seeking and one's own cognitive work. Furthermore, the fantastic and illusory will sooner be accepted by the earth humans than even the truth and reality which appears banal compared to the fantastic and illusory. Therefore, it is so that standing on the firm ground of the facts, truth and reality is prescribed while the untruthful, fantastic, and illusory and all the swindling, lies, deceit and slander which is bound with it, which, since time immemorial, have always been booming business, affect the earth humans like sweet balm, which stills the delight and demand for that which is fantastic and illusory. So lying, swindle, falsehoods, deceit and slander are means through which the human allows himself to be very easily beguiled, because everything is only swallowed and does not have to truthfully be contemplated, while the search for the effective truth and its processing is bound with very much effort and cognitive work, as well as with a sense for the recognition of reality. However, the irresponsible scribblers, who invent the crazy and unreal as well as unrealistic conspiracy theories, copy the entire nonsense from each other and throw everything to their believers as fodder, and therewith earn much money, know exactly that. That is also the case with the books of the hacks named by you who, without conscience, spread their horrendous nonsense of their dim-witted conspiracy theories, and thereby lead their faithful readers into error, convey to them a completely wrong picture of the world, and hound them into angst and terror. Truthfully, from the complete contents there are no things at all to name which could be designated facts of truth, and reality because basically it deals with nothing other than freely invented fantasies and illusions, which are irresponsibly given a coating of truth in order to thereby take those earth humans into their power who believe the dim-witted nonsense and allow themselves to be taken prisoner by it. From the entire exposition of all books of such a kind, no letter may be considered as true because everything is only built on deception, lies, deceit, slander, fantasies, and illusions. Yet in every regard, believers do not, as a rule, let themselves be impressed by the truth. Rather, they faithfully remain in the prison which they themselves delusionally imagine, because that is simpler than having to grapple with the real truth. The truth is just simply and somehow banal, as you tend to say, for which reason it only addresses humans who consciously use their reason and understanding, while the others, who depend on the fantastic and illusory as well as that which pertains to belief, are not willing to free themselves from the nonsensical and the unreal, as well as from their not making use of reason and understanding.
Contact Report 445.
Believing stupidity and stupidity are the breeding ground and the characteristic of all conspiracy theories, and stupidity know no bounds. Of the profit-greedy conspiracy theorists, who spread their horrendous nonsense, their actions are irresponsible and criminal, because with their boundless nonsense they drive intellectually weak or otherwise inexperienced or believing humans into fear and terror, chase them through 1,000 hells and possibly even to suicide. And that a horrendous business is made with it is part of the daily routine, which is why silly book descriptions are not uncommon, through which conspiracy theories are spread. Well, conspiracy theories are well thought out and targeted manipulations, from which humans start to suffer and fall into fear and terror. Conspiracy theories also manipulate public opinion, which makes the book-writing conspiracy theorists a lot of money. But the humans who let themselves be influenced by the whole thing do not feel well anymore, become insecure, and get even more attached to all the nonsense of the book writers, etc., in order to become conspiracy paranoiacs themselves, like the conspiracy theorists, which often leads to schizophrenic delusions, and therefore things and phenomena are seen and experienced that are not real, and do not stand up to any reality check.
Contact Report 476.
But something should probably also be said about the fact that the human beings of the earth bring about many terrible things and catastrophes themselves, not only in regard to the warming of the climate, rather, also by collectively directing their thought powers and unconsciousness powers so mightfully at terrible things and catastrophes and so forth. Also belonging with that are the false assertions and lies of anxiety, mongers and panic mongers, as well as from doomsday prophets, religions and their sects and so forth, upon which the susceptible human beings focus, whereby the terrible things and catastrophes and so forth then actually come about. These days, through the internet, it is even worse than before, when bad news, anxieties, and world destruction nightmares as well as other nonsense were spread only by religions, sects, doomsday prophets, newspapers, magazines, and through the radio. A majority of human beings concern themselves constantly with terrible things which are prophesied by panic mongers and conspiracy theorists, and with which such ones chase the susceptible human beings into anxiety and terror. And the more human beings believe in the nonsense and talk it up to delusion in the environment and in themselves, the more mightful becomes the power of the thoughts held in common relating to this, and indeed until they become the determining might and trigger and bring about the catastrophe or the terrible things which have been thought up. The might of the thoughts brings everything about, so to speak. And indeed, the more certainly the more thought powers of many human beings unite in the same matter. That means that inevitably that which the human being tends and nurtures in his or her thoughts is brought to fruition. And the more human beings direct themselves with their thought powers onto something particular, which could or is supposed to come about, the more certainly it will also actually come about. That relates to everything and anything, that is to say, to everything conceivable. Thus also to factors of nature, which, influenced by the enormous human thought powers, can trigger enormous catastrophes.
Contact Report 478.
Regarding the swine flu epidemic pandemic that you asked me about, it is not one of those stupid conspiracy theories that are invented again and again by panic mongers, know-it-alls, and pathologically delusional people who sense malicious conspiracies behind each and every event.
Contact Report 548.
So for all those who believe the idiotic conspiracy theories, there is no success whatsoever in coming to their senses when they are taught reality and truth.
Contact Report 630.
Superstitions and conspiracy theories are long-lived and persist for centuries and millennia, as the religious marriages, which are taken at face value by religious believers and sect believers, and are asserted and presented as truth, prove in particular worldwide.
Contact Report 672.
At least some conspiracy theories are only fake conspiracy theories that were specially conceived and invented to conceal and ridicule the effective truth, because it could have unpleasant effects.
In addition, I would like to explain right now that the probably most famous conspiracy theory in the world, namely with regard to you, me, and our common contacts, exists. And this is because our contacts are branded in a very negative, lying and slanderous way by antagonists, know-it-alls, defamers, discreditors, humiliators, as well as by malicious, envious, and vindictive negators as lies, deception, charlatanism, and fraud to make themselves important. Various people with very bad character may want to quench their revenge addiction, while others may spread their lies and slander profitably with books and writings as well as through public media in order to earn a living. This applies especially to certain mystic journal producers and to sensational journalists who lyingly distort and falsify the effective facts and thus also create slander. It is common for them to rely on hostile people and their lying statements and allegations, or by simply inventing interviews with you and statements that you are supposed to have made, but which they have fraudulently lied about. Also, all machinations of this kind correspond to truth infiltrations and effective conspiracies against you, us, and our common contacts, whereby then the population, which regards these conspiracies as truth, consumes these in the form of a conspiracy theory and regards them as given. This form of conspiracy theory, however, corresponds to a completely different form than those conspiracy theories which are used to spread given machinations, etc., in relation to not true, but invented and imagined events, etc., which pretend actions and modes of action, etc., which are not given to those who believe in conspiracy theory and therefore correspond neither to reality nor to the truth, and which follow them by pretending events which correspond to a pure illusion. Thus, if lies and slander are thus set up in this way in the form of conspiracy theories, they are done in such a way that the effective facts in relation to events and actions, etc., are denied and transformed into other, untrue and illusory events, facts and actions, so that something completely different, evil, underhanded, negative, and bad results from them, which really is supposed to have been committed in the background in a different way than is portrayed externally. In the case of our contacts, on the other hand, conspiracy theory has from the very beginning and will continue to be formed in such a way that because no other actions and events, etc., can be cited in the background that would expose anything other than reality and truth. A slanderous conspiracy lie has been circulated around the world, namely, that the reality and truth of our contacts are lies and deceit, charlatanry and fraud.
I can understand what you're saying. In the actual sense, I think a conspiracy theory is an attempt to give a revealing event, happening, state or development, etc., a completely different background in reality, to assume and assert pathologically, than that which is visible to the outside. Hence, in a conspiracy theory, it is morbidly believed that the true background to the occurrence of the event, condition, or development is completely different from everything else. So the conspiracy theory claims that the truth is not told, but that it is concealed, because in reality, something completely different is given or has happened than exactly what is superficially stated. Consequently, what is superficial is the untruth, and thus corresponds to a lie and conspiracy. The focus is on pathologically illusory, profoundly targeted conspiratorial work, which is usually intended to pursue an illegal or illegitimate purpose. A conspiracy theory is therefore a pathologically conditioned assumption and idea that a conspiracy or conspiracy enterprise is the starting point of something that is misrepresented externally and appears different than it really is.
You are saying what I also wanted to explain, namely that conspiracy theories are of pathological origin, to which it is also quite clear to say that this pathological thinking of such imaginations and illusions can only occur in people with very poor education and also lacking intelligence.
You mean a lack of education?
On the one hand, but on the other hand also the general education, but especially the formation of understanding and reason, through which alone reality and its truth can be perceived in a real way.
Aha, that has to be said, of course, because that sheds a different light on the matter and also explains the lack of intelligence behind conspiracy theories, as your father Svath already explained to me. If intelligence is lacking, then there is also a lack of understanding and reason, and thus especially of logical thinking, logical combination, and real perception and recognition of effective reality and its truth. In my opinion, however, this also means that man's fantasizing, if he suffers from these deficiency symptoms, is no longer healthy, but sick or pathologically suffering. And he is therefore not capable of real fantasizing, but only of pathological illusion, which accordingly leads to pathological assumptions, illusions, and ideas. In this way, unclear sensory impressions or false external perceptions arise, because only a surface sensitivity is given, through which the perceptions are perceived only superficially and thus only in certain individual parts or factors, but not the whole. Therefore, on the one hand, false interpretations of actual sensory perceptions arise, which have nothing to do with hallucinations, but with a lack of understanding, reason, and intelligence, as well as of clear, conscious perception. This is also the reason why several people who observe, or perceive one and the same thing individually have different recipes, or see and judge the result of information acquisition differently than others who have observed the same event or phenomenon. And in this way, of course, all people who are similar in this respect are ill in the same hospital, so that they very easily and thoughtlessly become believers of conspiracy theorists and their conspiracy theories, as well as believers of religions and sects. It cannot be otherwise, for a man with a normal, healthy mind and just as much reason, with the necessary education, and with deficiency-free intelligence, cannot simply be a believer, a conspiracy theory, or a religious or sectarian faith. Nor can such a person simply fall prey to a conviction which affects him, because through his mind, his reason, and intelligence he thoroughly explores and fathoms everything and everyone in himself until he has recognized the definitive reality and its truth and created an absolute certainty out of it, whereby he can never fall prey to faith.
Contact Report 691.
Probability calculations. Populist created and controlled conspiracy theories and lie reports will appear more and more. mislead the peoples of all countries and make them believers of all those who make horrendous profits from the whole of the conspiracy lies exploiting the people and at the same time dominating the populations.
Contact Report 701.
Unfortunately, however, it has been the case since time immemorial that the majority of earthly humanity does not respond to understanding and reason, because in its poverty of understanding and reason it is not able to perceive reality and the truth contained in it alone. And this is a very distressing factor that arises in all relationships, which is why all presentations and explanations regarding reality and the truth arising from it that are true to intellect and reason are not recognized and consequently also not accepted, but are falsely insulted as lies or conspiracy theories.
The fact that there are always some people who insult everything that is reality and truth as lies or spread them as conspiracy theories.
Contact Report 703.
Today's earthly chroniclers and scholars of historical norms do not want to accept all these facts as truth, but they vehemently deny them and believe in the completely false oral and written traditions that have run through the entire earthly history of mankind since time immemorial. Subsequently, all those who doubt false chronistic and other records and traditions, or can even prove their falsity and truthfulness, which were already thoroughly falsified at the time of the events and happenings with regard to their written records by the scribes' own interpretations, are insulted as liars, know-it-alls, troublemakers, and malicious conspiracy theorists. And such false and falsified chronicles, traditions, and records have existed since time immemorial, and thus go back to far before antiquity, although such also occur after the 14th Christian calculated century and even reach into the present time, and will also continue to appear. Often such chronistic records and traditions also involved quite deliberate lies and information fraud, as is still the case today and will probably remain so.
Contact Report 714.
But vegetarianism, like veganism, is usually based on incorrect assessments of the laws of nature, as well as in stupid and mendacious new religious claims made up by fanatical delusionists, which they reinterpret through new interpretations of the Bible and other holy books. And it is precisely through this that the greatest lies, deceptions, and conspiracy theories arise, because in modern times scriptural falsifiers and conspiracy theorists also falsify and reinterpret the stupidities that lead earthlings astray and drive them crazy in the Christian Bible and other religious books.
Contact Report 715.
These, Edward, are the 7 points that my father, Sfath, named to you and that you named back in Gießen at the beginning of the 1960s. False exaggerations of the truth. The populists state facts, but they exaggerate these in an exaggerated manner and create suggestive conspiracy theories from them, which have such a convincing effect on the audience that everything is accepted and represented as effective truth.
Contact Report 722.
The truth of the whole requires a spark to ignite the truth, which is a struggle against the truth deniers and truth falsifiers as well as against the fantasized unreal, confused and untrue assertions, as well as against the consciously invented conspiracy theories, etc., which serve the purpose of money-making.
Contact Report 737.
As I know, because Sfath took me back to various times when epidemics prevailed, back to the Bronze Age, so to the time more than 4,000 years ago, human beings were also then afflicted with conspiracy theories, as Sfath translated overheard speeches at various times, so that I understood what people were talking about.
Contact Report 738.
But I would also like to raise my voice with regard to all those dumb morons who invent senseless, stupid, dumb moronic conspiracy theories that could not be more idiotic. All those brainless and unbaked people. Those who are blown up like balloons. Those who are consciousness impaired and brain amputees, as well as intellectual idiots, who believe the nonsense and rubbish of the conspiracy inventors, also fall into the same category. This is because they are incapable of any cognition, but are only sloppy templates, an image of an absolute nothing. And according to your explanations, 44% of them are pathologically brain-damaged lunatics, who are in every respect insane and stupidly stupefying their way through existence. These bean-throated earthling specimens of a roaring bullshit degeneracy are actually pathetic creatures of a truth denial that never brings them gain, but only disadvantage, harm, and downfall throughout their lives. Basically, these kind of earthlings are actually to be pitied, but they are also incapable of understanding this in their stupid stupidity, because this would require an intellect and reason, which they, however, lack. So brain amputees continue to invent moronic conspiracy theories that could not be more idiotic and moronic, while the triple brain amputees believe all the bullshit and shout their sick stupidity and stupidity to the world, or reveal their moronic ridiculousness with described placards that they wear on their chest and back.
Contact Report 754.
This, while also about 25% of the population is stupid as hell, because they are not capable of logical thinking due to their lack of intelligentum, and consequently they do not adhere to the necessary security measures regarding COVID. If stupidity reigns because the cognitive ability is lacking and consequently understanding and reason cannot be used, precisely because of stupidity, which results from an inability to think, then also no cognitive ability can come into being. But this lack of intellectual strength and lack of intellect, I must say pathological or pathological lack, leads to the fact that the entire ratio is switched off and not recognized, which is effectively a fact. On top of that, these human beings, these stupid as a cross human beings, cling like burrs to the brain-damaged conspiracy theorists who, through their conspiracy nonsense, only encourage the stupid as a cross human beings in their non-thinking and irresponsible actions and behavior. The intellectually weak, precisely the conspiracy theorists and their followers, their intellect is almost at a state of zero, because as a result of their inability to use their consciousness, they are so handicapped and limited in their ability to think that they are unable to muster any cognitive capacity whatsoever with regard to effective reality.
Their lack of intellect and reason does not allow them to grasp the effective reality and truth of the corona plague, nor are they able to realize the pathological delusions of the conspiracy theorists they subscribe to and espouse their nonsense. A further problem arises in this respect as a result of the stupidity of the worldwide unteachable and irresponsible section of the population, who, as a result of their devotion, bind themselves to damaging conspiracy theories whereby, because all precautionary and protective measures are disregarded, the corona epidemic is further spread.
To call on the people to take responsibility for themselves and to ask them to perceive, bear and fulfill their personal responsibility is pointless in the case of a large part of the people, because this part is completely lost in life and is blind to the reality of reality and its truth. Just as these human beings are delusional about God, they are also delusional about other insane delusional conspiracy theories, which they trust and emulate in their boundless stupidity, consequently trampling reality and truth underfoot. Then I would like to return to the subject of conspiracy theories, which have been circulating among earthlings since time immemorial, some of which have persisted for centuries and millennia, such as the conspiracy theories of religions and sects with their madness of belief that a god and not the human beings themselves are the masters of their lives and destinies, and so on. This has also given rise to the army and military mania, with its defense measures and insane armaments, whereby every armament and armament is a crime against humanity, peace, harmony, humanity, and righteousness, as well as against every single human being. Armies and militaries, like everything warlike, have emerged from the fear and revenge principle of God's doctrine of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and this has led to the fact that all around, from country to country, there's nothing but war mania, strife, the spreading of fear, threats, and warmongering, with the USA in the front line in this respect, greedy for world power and viciously war criminal. In my opinion, religions and their sects are effectively the most vicious, evil, powerful, and insidiously mendacious of all the imbecilic conspiracy theories, with the most addictive, extensive, and earth-dumbing, imbecilic, evil, and sinister conspiracy lies ever delusionally invented in the entire universe by human beings. And through this insane and pathologically mind-numbing, moronic, stupidity-promoting, all-round religious sectarian conspiracy cabal, the entire catastrophically overpopulated planetary humanity of Earth continues to be endlessly enslaved in the degenerate spell of the all-controlling and all-reason-stifling God-belief delusion. And in this God-belief delusion, the entire religious sectarian-believing earthlingdom has been controlled since time immemorial by the imbecility deeply imprinted in its character that injustice is to be repaid in a manner of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This time-honored religious sectarian delusion of God, which is also interpreted as, if you don't want to be my brother or sister, I'll bash your head in, corresponds neither to law, order, nor humanity.
I can't disagree with you on this. Although I must say that up to now it had not occurred to me to include religions and their sects in conspiracy theories. But now that you have put the whole thing forward clearly, I can see with frightening clarity that your clarification corresponds to the effective and incontrovertible reality, fact, and truth. This, that you recognize religions and their sects as the most evil and degenerate conspiracy theories ever since time immemorial, lays bare for me a new realization and fact, namely this, that your statement shows frighteningly clearly that this religious sectarian, insidious infiltration of the intellect and reason of Earth humans can hardly be brought to an end, but continues endlessly. This is because in human beings, religious sectarian faith acts like a drug which forms a plague in the consciousness of every delusional believer, from which, as a result of his delusion of faith, a dullness against real reality and truth arises which can no longer be recognized. And it is this dullness which no longer admits of any rational thought, but rejects everything that is really real before it can even consciously reach consciousness.
And therefore the effect of this dullness, the incapacity that arises from it, that thoughts that are no longer mind-reasonable can be cultivated, is then called stupidity.
Yes.
Contact Report 755.
Unfortunately, stupidity and dumbness know no bounds. Neither does the brain-damaged and dumbass population, who are addicted to the moronic conspiracists and their followers.
Contact Report 756.
This is exactly the same as those who, as stupid and imbecile troublemakers and know-it-alls, as well as bean-stupid, monkey-like chest-hammering conspiracy idiots, suffer from a high degree of idiotic lack of intelligence when shouting around stupidly as street demonstrators.
Contact Report 768.
This is also proven by the facts of the demonstrations and riots of all the troublemakers, contrarians as well as the followers of the mad and confused conspiracy theories, which are stirred up by uneducated and pathologically stupid elements who were incapable in their puberty years of growing up in terms of consciousness, and thus in terms of conscience, intellect, understanding, and reason.
Contact Report 770.
The widespread pathologically insane delusions of the so-called conspiracy theories that have been spread on Earth since time immemorial.
Conspiracy theories? You're talking about something that could not be more idiotic, but which has been driving large groups of Earthlings crazy with delusions since time immemorial. These conspiracy idiocies arose through religious sectarian delusions, as for example in the case of pandemics, in which the believers in God's delusion, in their delusion of faith, regarded the whole thing as God's punishment for their disobedience to Him, and therefore chastised themselves, not infrequently to the point of suicide. The whole thing was driven forward by priests and clergymen as well as by crazy sect fanatics, as I was able to observe with Svath. On the one hand, it is the case that pathologically stupid human beings invent conspiracy theories, or such crazy theories arise unintentionally through some circumstances, while effective truths are also deliberately constructed and spread as conspiracy theories, not only by private individuals, but also by authorities, governments, and organizations, etc.
Contact Report 788.
Conspiracy theories, which only human beings can invent, who are irresponsible creatures and want to make themselves big with their lying theories. No human beings should ever get involved with these lunatics and their false theories, if they are to resist the extraneous influences emanating from them and understand what corresponds to reality and truth.
Contact Report 824.
Then, there are the conspiracy theorists who want to see something behind everything and everyone and suspect and claim things that do not correspond to reality and its truth. They unconscionably even take to the streets and incite people with allegations of lies against this and that, and against other human beings, thereby creating hatred and aggressiveness, which not only creates many believers, but also leads to aggressive demonstrations of the masses, and to murder and manslaughter as well as to destruction. On the other hand, there are also those who out themselves as opponents of conspiracy theories, but who also drive humanity crazy with their gibberish, because they call everything and anything a conspiracy theory, which is against their personal opinion. These people, too, must rightly be called stupid and brainsick, because they are, correctly seen, also nothing but only stupid and thus non-thinking conspiracy theorists, who cannot think neutrally and are also unable to ascertain reality and its truth. Everything and anything that they cannot understand and also cannot comprehend, they condemn as falsehood or as conspiracy theory. What their intelligentum is not able to grasp and understand, and also because they cannot neutrally see and recognize reality and its truth, and evaluate and understand it as given, they denigrate truth pejoratively and as theory or conspiracy theory. Thus, self-important and know-it-all, they unthinkingly denigrate everything and anything as false, void, and also condemn this and that as a conspiracy theory or as an impossibility, which they themselves are not able to fathom and recognize as reality and truth. Instead of neutrally fathoming everything, and thus also recognizing that as reality and truth, which it actually is, they find, according to their opinion, that everything is only a hoax or conspiracy. Thus, they are not neutral in truth, but selfish in opinion. Consequently, they also do not understand that everything, therefore, does not correspond to their opinion, or that they cannot comprehend everything, because their intelligentum leaves something to be desired. In doing so, however, they turn themselves into what they are quick to vehemently insult, namely, into conspiracy theorists as well. The fact that they are told that their idiotic conspiracy theories are possibly just as void and false as those of the mad and confused conspiracy theorists, because they, as insulters, can neither understand nor comprehend reality and its truth, goes beyond their intelligent horizon. But the would-be know-it-alls cannot understand this in any way, and also do not want to admit it. There is really nothing to be said against conspiracy theorists being made aware that their stupid and untruthful faith-based assertions are causing harm, horrendously so, to individual Earthlings, or even to parts of society. Consequently, It is also necessary to take action against the conspiracies, namely by putting a stop to the conspiracy theorists, because it can really possibly become a danger for small or large groups of people, or for whole peoples, or even for the whole earthly humanity. Therefore, if it is necessary, legal action must also be taken against conspiracy theories, especially if the conspiracies really represent a danger, if they are very dangerous and not as harmless as some human beings imagine. The machinations of the conspirators are inflammatory and are only too readily taken up by stupid and unstable, as well as believing contemporaries of both sexes, and translated into terror, murder and manslaughter, as well as destruction. The longer this goes on, the more frequently it becomes the case, especially in purely private initiative, since human beings, as a result of some kind of unconscious indoctrination, mostly religiously conditioned by faith, believe themselves predestined and delusionally obliged to kill many fellow human beings. That is why they get themselves weapons, invade meetings and gatherings, places of worship and schools, or otherwise groups of human beings, commit bloody massacres, murder and kill masses of human beings who are completely foreign to them and whom they have not even spoken a word to. In many cases, those who murder in this way are so unconsciously indoctrinated politically and religiously that they are religiously schizophrenic, which neither the female nor male doctors or the psychologists are able to determine, who inevitably have to deal with this illness and delusion, and do not even know that there are 3 basic forms of schizophrenia, which in turn appear in different characters and consequently differ in their very many ways.
Contact Report 826.
But as a rule, all this is concealed from the public or even denied, whereby the saying "truth dies first" comes into play. Just as it does, for example, with regard to the presence of so-called UFOs, whose presence has long been proven even militarily and through the testimony of airline pilots, etc., on film or photographically. But what is not allowed to be for state security reasons, etc., simply does not exist, even if everything to the contrary can be proven to be correct. So the effective truth is simply turned into a conspiracy theory, just as otherwise pathologically stupid people make up stupid and idiotic conspiracy theories that are foreign to the effective truth and illogical. This is what religions do, for example, whose conspiracy theories are religious faith stories and faith hatred, because of which racism has prevailed for millennia, which is actually religious hatred.